Welcome to the Excellent International Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Katrina Birus, and today we have the pleasure to interview Paul Lagudi. Paul, welcome.
Katrina, my pleasure to be here with you today.
So you're the CEO of Lagudi Fresh Food Group, which manufactures food, and you serve most of Las Vegas hotels. Is that right?
That's our business.
That's your business.
We're a kitchen to the hotels.
The kitchen to the hotels, and I've tried a few of those, and oh my God, is it good? So I wanted to ask you, how did you're Australian, and you started as a rugby player. So tell us a little bit about your leadership journey.
Well, for me, sport was a big part of my leadership. You mentioned rugby; it was a big part of my life, and through the years. I was a captain in most years. And the way I run my business is very much similar to a sports team. In my case, a football team. And it's all about motivating people, identifying good leaders who can train good people to do the best they can at the best performance. And my job is really to keep people motivated and focused to hit the highest levels we can for our customers.
Right. But there's a big gap between being a rugby professional and then coming to the US and starting a food manufacturing company. Tell us a bit about that journey.
Well, for me, it was quite interesting. I like to think, for me, I had the gift of cancer. I got cancer in 1999, malignant cancer. And lost my left kidney, so life became very precious. And when I had a second chance, I always wanted to live in America, and I liked Las Vegas, of all places. So I moved to Las Vegas, and then I started my business on $30,000. I actually didn't graduate high school. I came from the school of hard knocks, and sport was a big thing for me. And I was in a family business my father was a great leader, and which taught me a lot. And so I started my business on $30,000. True story. I walked in the circus, and I wanted to sell whole produce, cases of tomatoes and lettuce. And the chef said to me, "Can you slice it, dice it, shred it?" I didn't have a clue what he was talking about. I said, "Absolutely." He says, "Well, what do we need to do?" I said, "Just show me how to do it." And he did. And that was the beginning for us. And it just got to show me that, if you're willing, and I like to use the words lean, mean, and hungry, anything can happen.
But he did have confidence in you because he didn't know you, and you probably didn't even know how to do it. So he showed you and had that confidence.
He totally did. It might have been my accent at the time. Everyone seemed to like my accent from Australia. So I think that might have helped a bit. But, in all true sense, when I approached him, I came from a place of confidence. One thing I noticed, most people want to help other people, but they want you to be successful. So you have to give the sense of confidence that you know what you're talking about, but humble enough that they want to help you.
Whoa. So now tell us a little bit more of how you managed to that fine line of giving.
Very, very true. I think that's a big thing in business. And I think young people really need to understand that. When most people in their art or older people love to mentor a younger person, it's good for the soul. So if you can tap into those intangibles with somebody and have that connection, but also have the maturity of knowing your product. So therefore, they've got the confidence that you can do the job, but also feel that they can guide you and be a part of your journey. That's the magic. That's what makes it happen.
Right. So really, that's a good thing. It's good for the soul to help others. And
very much so.
Also, you had some confidence because you were helping your father that was also in the food manufacturing company in Australia. Is that correct?
That is correct. I grew up from the School of Hard Knocks and went work with my father in the wholesale markets. And that's the wholesale produce markets in Australia. Ever since a little fella through holidays and school holidays and then going in there full time. And so I had some experience in produce, but I didn't have experience in cut produce. And it's very different because when you go to cut produce, you're given a finished product. When we serve whole produce, you're given a raw material. So I was actually stepping on the other side of that industry now that it was new to me. And I caught on pretty quick. But I will say it was a bit daunting because you started, instead of selling a box of tomatoes for $9, for example, you're going to figure out the yields and the loss and the workable yield product that you can work to get to a cost, or you could lose money very quickly. It's a game of sense.
So what helped you out with that? Was it your prior experience or it's a trial and error?
It was trial and error. My first week in business, I lost $10,000.
Ooh.
So you learn pretty quick when you take a hit of 10 grand in your first week.
Yes.
That was the last time I lost money.
Yeah, I bet you were very attentive. You came to Las Vegas. Why Las Vegas?
I had one friend in Las Vegas that I was pretty intrigued with, who was actually one of the original owners of Caesar's Palace, had a very small piece of it. His name was Dean Shendell. He ended up being the godfather to my daughter. And my son's name's Dean. He had a very big impact on me. And he was more of an old timer in Vegas on the colorful years of what Vegas was built on. And I was very intrigued and I saw opportunity in Las Vegas. It was still one of those places in beginning of 2000 that you could come here and earn a great living and be able to buy an affordable house and vehicles compared to Australia, for example. Today, it's a lot more expensive here. But compared to Australia, it's still very cheap. So, I saw it was a place I could go and probably live a life that I really would enjoy and choose to live.
Mm-hmm. So this is an international leadership podcast. So I'd be very curious to know, how did you manage the food manufacturing business in Australia compared to here in the US? You mentioned a price difference already. So
yes. Well, I'll tell you what's very different. Not a whole lot of differences. I mean, you're still trading and dealing with people, right? In Australia, it's very close to Asia. So we did a lot of business with Asia and China and Taiwan. America is more of a secondary source for Asia because we're so far away. Although at certain times of the year, Australia may not have the product and America does, so they would send product from here. And that's in the produce world. I found today the world is very small. I'm one of the biggest importers of plant-based shrimp from Taiwan. And I supply people we have people in Dubai and even as far as Eastern Europe have contacted us for product. And that product there, I'm also distribute. Well, I don't really distribute. I'm more of an importer and sell to distributors. So that just gives you an idea of the magnitude of international, where really it's no different, to be honest. It's just I was going to say currencies are different, but not really. Everybody wants to deal in American dollars. Doesn't matter where you are. Everybody wants to deal in American dollars. Really?
So the cultural aspect, the difference in the way of doing business is not that big an impediment.
Well, you know what? The culture of individuals is very different. And I was just explaining this to my son the other day, that because we import bananas from Ecuador and we supply big retailers in Florida. And I'm based on the East Coast. I'm based in Las Vegas, right? But there's also customers in Germany who, one thing I'll say with people that we've dealt with in Germany, they're spot on all the time. They take a lot of pride in being correct in what they say. I can deal with other parts of Europe that aren't as prideful in being correct in what they say. So it's kind of interesting how you got all different cultures have different personas. But at the end of the day, we're all buying a product and selling a product.
Okay.
There's the universal language of the items that we deal in.
Yeah. So if someone were coming new to the international business as a leader, what advice would you give him or her?
I would say, first of all, be understanding to people's cultures and where they're from, and try and understand what that country or culture eat, especially in the food industry, right? And we're talking food industry, what they eat, because there's certain, like, for example, plantains are very popular in certain countries, especially Latin American countries.
Mhm.
Not as much in, for example, America, except in the Latin community areas. So understanding, and that's just one example, understanding what people eat will give you more understanding of what to supply.
And to back to what you said, when I interviewed the past CEO and past chairman of Nestle, he would say, we have global products, but we adapt it to the cultural food preferences according to where we.
100%.
Mhm.
Great way to put it. That's exactly correct.
So that's one of the issues. So who were your mentors in this process? You mentioned one when you came to Las Vegas. You mentioned your father. Was there anybody else in the process that helped you out, that you learned from?
To be quite honest with you, they were the people that I learned from. Sometimes you just got to do it, and you'll get experiences by doing it and going through the process. I found you learn from mistakes and being willing to have a go at something. Sometimes you just got to be willing to put yourself out there and be willing to fail your way to success. Very important.
So what biggest leadership failures have you had, and what helped you get over them?
Well, I would say we've tried some different items that we've invested money in, different food products that we thought maybe a go. And, you know, I was importing some different pastries and different products from Europe, and it cost me a lot of money. There was freight, there was COVID, there was a lot of different issues. And what really helped me get over it was by cutting my loss. Cut your loss and let your profits run. It's a whole stock market saying, but it's very true. Follow the money trail. Not everything you're going to do is going to make you money or make you succeed or win. But you're going to be willing to know when to cut it. You're going to know when to push it. And sometimes things don't work out at first. You've got to assess, is it worth the long run? And if it isn't, you don't. I like to diversify in different items in what I do, because 9 times out of 10, I'm going to get 5 out of 10 that are going to win.
I see.
5 dogs that don't, it's okay.
Yeah, I see. Because you seem very determined person coming out from Australia to the US with 30,000 and having a 10,000, loss at one point. That's very difficult. So you're determined, and at the same time, you're ready to cut your loss. So when do you do what? So, but you said it in some degrees that you accept you're constantly experimenting. And if you have 1 or 2 things that don't go wrong, you just cut your loss. Is that it? Or
I'm going to tell you this. You better be resilient and you better be persistent.
Okay.
You got to be resilient and you got to be persistent. The secret to winning is whoever lasts the longest wins. Just stay in the game. Whatever you do, you got to stay in the game and be flexible enough to be able to pivot into something a little different to maybe what you set out to do, and what that may be. You may be in a certain industry that you may want to master a certain area, and that may lead you to something else that you end up mastering. Where you initially went into is not to be. So be very flexible, very open-minded, but you got to be resilient. It's not easy. My saying is you're allowed to get upset, you're allowed to get down, but you're never allowed to quit. You get back up and keep going.
Yes, and we can see from behind you and your screen everything that's happening. So you have quite a success in developing your company. So how do you see it evolve in the next 5 years?
Our business in the next 12 months is going to quadruple. In the next 5 years, it's going to be tremendous. And the reason that's going to happen is, first of all, we have a great culture within our team. You know, number one, you can't do it without good people. And you can't do it without good people giving them good incentive to win just like you. So that's number one. We have a great culture. Number two, we're very open-minded at looking at different projects to what fits our model. You've got to be willing to say no, no to some winning moves, because it may affect everything else, so you got to be aware of that. But I think that I'm very, very bullish and excited about the future and where we're going. And we keep making friends. I never sell a product. I just make friends, because I'm a believer in friends love to deal with friends, and you work harder for a friend because you don't want to let them down. So yeah, that's worked for us and worked for me, and I'm very excited about it.
And you had also mentioned that given the situation today where it's very hard to hire personnel, that you've been able to keep your personnel very faithful and had no problem with that. So what's your secret?
The secret is, first of all, reward people accordingly. If we go through hard times, your team goes through hard times. When you're winning, your team's got to win. We all move together as one. And everybody wants to be respected, appreciated, and rewarded well for the work they do. And I very much try to do that. And more than that, everyone that works for us, we care about. We get involved with them. I get to know who they are as people, because as people, we can't perform every day. We're human. And I think that's understanding where someone's coming from. And I found that, especially in the last 12 months, to be a big human factor. Is very important.
So why especially in the last 4 months?
Well, because the last 12 months, we've had COVID, and we've had a lot of traumatic things happen in this world of ours, not just country, world, that's taken a lot of effect on people, that I think people have been very concerned and down. And I think with hope and excitement and purpose and the excitement of another event or a goal to work for is very positive in a human's life. And when you don't have that, it's very difficult.
And for having visited your company, I would say that one of the things that really struck me is that you give opportunities to people. When you see talent, you give them a lot of rein to be creative by themselves and to try new things. And that also, if you go back to the human desire to realize themselves, I think you've tapped into that.
You're 100% correct. And I will say this, it's exciting and very rewarding to give someone an opportunity who may not find it in many areas, because whatever may have been, they may not have been given that opportunity. They might not have had a different walk of life. And to give someone an opportunity that really shine, that's pretty rewarding, I will say that. And they do a phenomenal job.
Yes, for having seen it. Also, so if you had to start over, what advice would you give yourself?
Be ready to be very resilient.
Yes.
And never give up. Persist, persist, persist.
Okay. And now you have a very successful company. How do you make sure that somebody else doesn't want to buy you out?
How do I say that one more time? I'm sorry.
So how do you make sure to stay independent, or is your...
Okay. Having someone buy me out? Well, if they got the right dollar, they'll buy me out. But to be honest with you, we need to stay hungry. We need to always be climbing the mountain.
Mm.
Because when you're on top of the mountain, you're not as hungry. And then the other guys who are your competitors who want to climb that mountain get a little bit more hungrier. So I think it's very important to be humble, stay hungry, and just be very thankful every day where you are and where you want to go to.
Mhm. So what's the remedy for not being complacent when you're successful like you are?
Stay hungry.
Yes, especially if coming from a food company.
Yeah, exactly right. Listen, anyone who's successful, anybody, I don't care who you tell me,
Yeah.
whatever walk of life, they will tell you they're 1 millimeter of losing it all. So it's a tightrope. And that means you have to stay focused, and you have to always, because anyone who's complacent, think about it, any country, any leaders in the world that have ever got complacent, the Roman Empire got complacent at one point in time in history. And look what happened there. So anyone who gets complacent can fall. You're never too big to fail. And I think if you have the attitude of I'm a student of the game, I'm constantly learning, I'm constantly appreciative, and constantly striving, we will have that, not to be repetitive, but to stay hungry attitude.
So my last question will be, how do you stay motivated, hungry, and excited about your business?
Well, I'll tell you now, I'm in business with my son, which is exciting. Even more so than that, it's exciting to see such a young team I have that are excited for the future and building for the future. That keeps me very motivated, very hungry, and I get excited with their motivation and dreams. So I'm very inspired by my own team, and that's pretty cool. Probably wouldn't have thought that, and I totally am.
Yes, well, okay.
It's hungry.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's always nice to have family be involved in your business.
Very much so.
Extra purpose, extra reason, right? Yeah.
Totally. And I got to tell you, a lot of your staff members that you give opportunity to become part of your family, you're around them as much as your family. So it's the human connection is still pretty cool.
Yes, it sounds like it's something that has helped to keep your employees faithful and with you. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I want to thank you very much for taking the time in your busy schedule for this interview. Thank you very much, Paul.
Thank you, Katrina. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you again.
Okay, take care.
Take care. Ciao.